I was undercover. I was like a Palestinian journalist, and I sneaked in to the mosque, to the schools, to the street, and then I heard them saying, "We here to implement the Sharia." The head of the army, even the head of the cabinet, and the head of all those branches of the state, they still believe that one day we're gonna have peace if something will happen. And I can tell them now, forget about it.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the Caroline Glick Show. All through the years, there's been this very symbiotic relationship between the media, the world media, and the Palestinians, but there's also been a symbiotic relationship between the Israeli media and the Palestinians. And my guest today, Israel's premier Arab affairs commentator, Tzvi Yehezkeli, has been at ground zero of that symbiosis for the past 35 years. He just recently wrote a book about jihad called I Told You So. It's jihad that's now being translated into English, and I'm very glad. I've been trying to get him on the show for a while, even before his show came out, so I'm really happy to welcome to the show Tzvi Yehezkeli, the chief or the Arab affairs commentator at I-24, the new channels here. So thank you very much for joining me.
Caroline.
Well, it's a pleasure. So
it's a pleasure for me.
We have so much to talk about and so little time, but I want to start with what's happening in Europe and what's happening to the Israeli soccer fans. Started in Amsterdam with a pogrom, and then it moved to Paris, I think, last week. So you actually wrote a post on Facebook a couple of days before the pogrom in Amsterdam. What did you see? What were you expecting? What were you anticipating happening there?
I said that if you're going to send our players to Amsterdam to the football match, you can give us security. You can send your security boys. I was a security boy in the Israeli security services, but it's not the case. The case is the street, because
the problem isn't the game, it's outside the game.
The immigrants, the Muslim immigrants, and when you secure the team, it's okay. What's going to be in the train? What's going to be in the stadium? What's going to be in the streets? And then I said, be careful. We're not in the 70s and the 80s that you look for Fatah terrorists. They are in Europe. They live in Europe, and the terror, it's Free Palestine or demonstration against Israel. Be careful. And then after 2 days, it happened, because I knew it. I covered 2012. I did a documentary.
It was a miniseries, a very important miniseries that appeared on Israeli television, then on Channel 13, where you were the head of the Arab desk.
Yeah, Al-Islam. And then I said, look, there is a clash of civilization. I'm not the only one, Professor Huntington said it. Mm-hmm. But I saw the clash of the civilizations in Europe. I saw the Islam clash into the European societies. And I was undercover. I was like a Palestinian journalist. And I sneaked in to the mosque, to the schools, to the street, to the suburbs. And then I heard them saying, we here to implement the Sharia in Europe, and we're going to clash towards the Christians. So it wasn't secret. It's all over. The Europeans don't want to know it. But ask a German or British lady if she can cross those suburbs safely. Not anymore. There is a new reality in Europe that the media and the European by themselves are hiding. And it's a clash.
It's been going on for so many years. Your documentary came out in 2006, but of course, Theo van Gogh was murdered in the streets of Amsterdam. He was beheaded in 2004. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, the Dutch Somali member of parliament, was forced to flee to the United States in 2006. And you had, I think his name was Peter Rediker, who was a teacher in France who was living in hiding after teaching or saying something that the Muslims in his class didn't like, and he was hiding. There was a priest in Normandy who was beheaded in his church. I mean, you have so many of these things. And then afterwards, the Bataclan and Hyper Kasher and all of the jihadist.
Exactly 9 years before. Bataclan is today, 9 years before.
So you were, in your documentary on Islam in Europe, you actually talked to people who later became terrorists, or who were at the time terrorists in ISIS. So what was that like? I mean, did you understand what ISIS was? Did you realize when you were talking to them that they were in ISIS, or did you just think it was a mindset?
It was only a logo and a wish to join the Islamic State in Syria. I thought it's, young boys in Antwerp or in Belgium that they just converted to Islam. And
were they converts?
Most of them convert. Most of them.
You mean they were native Europeans who had converted to Islam?
Yeah, there was 4 Belgian Christians, and the rest were Moroccans and Algerians. That they wasn't come from religious houses. They just strengthened the religious in those groups. And I thought they're joking. And afterwards, I just saw it. They operate terror or attacks in Belgium, and they went to Syria. Most of them have been killed in ISIS. We didn't know what ISIS in 2014. It was only the beginning. But they told me, even the Sheikh in London, Anjum Chowdhury, who was I interviewed him 4 times. He said to me, I want to go to do jihad. This is the Islamic obey. So it wasn't so clear at the beginning, but after 1 year, I knew there is there's ISIS cells in Europe that Europeans don't know that this exists because they don't see it as a religious conflict.
They don't want to see it.
They don't have the tools because the religious in Europe are, somewhere in the church there, because they separate the religious from the state. Now the Muslims coming and they said, Islam. That's why the Dutch authorities can't see it as a religious conflict. That's still a problem all over Europe up to date. That's why they sing in the Fatah in German school, because they don't know what's the effect of
the Fatah.
Yeah, Fatah, the opening words in the Quran. It's the Fatah, la ilaha illallah, and so on. They sing it at the schools in Germany. And Christians students have to hear it. I'm talking about public school, because this is what the Muslims want due to their religious. So I will respect the religious, but they don't respect their religious. They're giving churches to be mosque they're
transforming them into mosques.
So this is a problem of a state. They don't have any religious say towards religious immigrants or religious institutes.
So I want to bear down that on a little bit, because Anjum Chowdhury, that you met with 4 times, is an interesting character, right? Because he's been calling for jihad and for the publicly and the Islamification of Britain since the late 90s. I mean, and he's been out there doing it. Al-Mujahiroon, I think, was...
Muhajiroon.
Yeah,
Muhajiroon, they are Salafis. Yeah.
Right, and he's the head of Al-Mujahiroon in Britain, and they're comprised largely of immigrants and children and grandchildren of immigrants from Pakistan who have become Islamic.
He's a lawyer, by the way.
And I don't know where is he in prison now? I mean,
yeah, he's in prison now for life sentence. Only that they can, eventually they approved that guys that he told them.
That he incited the act.
Incited that it eventually caused to a terror attack.
But it took forever. I mean, he was out inciting, indoctrinating Muslims in Britain to become jihadists. This predates the July 7th, 2005 subway massacre, which was carried out by British Muslims.
Yeah, 2005.
It predated 9/11. I mean, his actions, and he was an interesting case study in the utter refusal of the British authorities to do anything about the Islamic indoctrination of their youth. You think that it's just because, I mean, it's because it's religious that they can't handle it? Is that really is that what you think it is? Or is it self-hatred of the British themselves, that they don't feel like asserting their own civilization? Or
first, it's because they can't see it as a religious conflict. Second, they so believing in the democracy that they can't imagine that there is somebody else that not believe in the democracy. You just use the democracy as a tool in the war. When Anjam told me in the interview that he's gonna chop the head of the queen when they're gonna conquer the Buckingham, he said it. So I asked the Ministry of Interior Affairs, what do you think about this? She said, it's a freedom of speech. He's not going to do it. If he will think to do it or will do it, we will arrest him.
But in Britain today, you have people in prison for posting live feeds of anti-government protests on their TikTok. I mean, like the British nationalists.
They're afraid.
They're persecuting their own people out of fear of Muslims.
Yeah, look what's happening in the demonstration of the right wing in England. That the Muslims can do whatever they want, to pray in the street and to beat policemen, and the right wing can't do it because it's the apologetic discourse of the West.
Right. So I don't think that. So I'm taking issue with your view that they're trying to avoid acknowledging the religious aspect of it. It seems that they totally acknowledge it and would rather surrender than fight it. I mean,
yeah. I think that today it's irreversible situation in Europe because
it's lost. Europe is lost.
Even though the white right wing or the patriots in England or in Spain or in France will do something, the Muslims are in there. So if you will see the demographically, the birth rates of the Muslims is higher than the locals. Even Germany, Denmark, and Swedish, there is no kids, there is no families. So it's lost. But I want to say another point. It's first, they don't see it as religious. Second, they don't believe that somebody will harm the democracy or use the democracy. And second, I think it's connected to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, whatever you call it, what's happening in Gaza. They paying for the Muslim communities to be quiet and do whatever you want because don't harm me. Take all your anger and rage towards Israel in this
That's not new.
That's
right?
what you see. A Hezbollah flag with a transsexual flag or whatever. How it's not go together.
No, it doesn't. So let me just challenge you on that a little bit too. Not challenge you, but I mean the point is that this is an historical phenomenon back to the days of Fatah, right? I mean you had a Fatah bombing out of the Rome synagogue in 1982, and they murdered I think he was a 4-year-old boy, and
in Rosham, but in the airports, right. I was security guy in the Israel Security Service in El Al 8 years. I was sitting in an aircraft and working in airports in Athens, in Belgium, in Hungary, because of those terror attacks. Because it was the.
But what I'm saying though is that there was a former Italian president who acknowledged in like 2010 or so that the 82 bombing was actually pre-coordinated with the Rome authorities, that there had been a police car guarding the synagogue. It was Rosh Hashanah, and it left a half an hour before the bombing. And it was because they had a deal with Fatah that they would only kill Jews and Israelis and leave the non-Jews alone. So that was going back to 1982. And so do you think that the situation has gotten worse in terms of the collusion than it was? Or is it just more of the same, that this idea that they would cooperate with the Muslims or the Arabs, Fatah, whatever, against the Jews, and in exchange, the Muslims would not attack the non-Jews in Europe?
I think it's worse. I will tell you why. Because eventually, the European one wants to close a deal. They don't want to go inside the problems. That's why we had it in Munich in
1972. The same thing. You're right. I went back then,
and I saw it as a security boy and security officer in the Israeli embassies. For example, in Brussels. In Brussels, the Jewish Israeli school Genenu. It's a school with Bagrut, with all the
Israeli matriculation exams.
Exactly. For because it's a very large station, an embassy of people who come from Israel and their kids want to study there. It's really on the border of Anderlecht. Anderlecht is a Muslim suburb in Brussels, and I saw how the Belgian working with the Muslims, just not to do what you do in our shift. When the kids in school or where we have the tour, do it at weekends, do it where we're not there. It's the same language. The European didn't change their view towards the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and towards the Jews. They still see the Jewish, the one who make the problem. If you're a Belgian Jew and you're not a Zionist even, you have a problem when you have a restaurant in Avenue Louise, the main
thoroughfare there.
Yeah, street. So we still the problem, and the Muslim, they are the guys who live here, and we have to take into consider their needs and opinions. It's still the same problem, maybe worser.
So really it's funny, I guess, haha. That maybe the root of the destruction of Europe, their refusal, their inability, their incompetence, their avoidance of having to deal with their Islamic problem is their common anti-Semitism. That they look at the Muslims and say, well, we hate Jews too. We can just make a deal with you, take our Jews, blow up, the halal counters in Rome and Vienna, kill a little boy coming out of synagogue.
Just go to the street. You don't need to attack signs of Israel like halal offices, or you don't need, because those symbols, embassy and offices, they are still secured. Go to the street. Look for Jewish fans of football or tourists or whatever. This is the best.
One of the things I was critical, and I still feel critical about how the Shin Bet and all of the other authorities handled the threat before Amsterdam. You saw it coming, but also Amichai Shikli, the Diaspora Affairs Minister, published that we had actual, credible threats that this was going to happen, and that we transferred them to the Dutch authorities, and they did nothing. And when I read that the night, the morning after, when I found out about the pogrom, I thought, well, why did you think that they would help us? Why didn't you tell the fans? Why didn't you let the people who were in Amsterdam to see the show, to see the game, why didn't you alert them to the fact that their lives were going to be in danger? Why did you leave it to the authorities? Maybe if the fans had known, they would have thought differently about how to get out of the stadium. Yeah. I mean, people aren't stupid. I thought that was a big mistake. We just let the people themselves know, and then they can maybe protect themselves better.
Yeah, look, we need the foreign security services whenever. When I was even in JFK airport, and I saw somebody's suspect, and I said to the American officer, look, I'm Tzvi, I'm security service here. I want you to check this guy. He said, he's okay. I'm not checking. We always have this problem with the local police, that they don't understand the same threat. They don't understand the security, because they have the profiling, the holy.
You're not allowed to do ethnic profiling.
You're not allowed to ask a guy because his look or because
he looks like Osama bin Laden. You're not allowed to ask him.
You're not allowed to ask him. That's why Mohammed Atta, the commander of the 11th September attack, he entered the United States like this. He said to the officer in the border, I'm going to the United States. I came from Germany. I'm going to study. I want to be a pilot, and that's it. You're not allowed to check someone because his look. This is the first problem with the police. The second thing of the Minister Shikli, if you say, I'm not going to send the players to the game, you said, oh, you hysteric, you're too paranoid, and so on. So it's happened in the Israeli way. We went there, the pogrom happened, and now we know where we're heading and who we're dealing with. That's it. Now, like in the match in France, we're not allowed to go to the match in France because Amsterdam happened. We are waking up.
Oh, the match in France.
Yeah, match in France, that's the word. We are waking up slowly. It's exactly like the 7th of October. Now, we let ourselves to speak about things that we never dare to speak about. Immigration from Gaza, blowing houses. Why? Because 7th of October happened. We always paying with our blood
For our ignorance.
For understanding and for the world understanding.
So before I come to Israel and our specific ignorance, which is so richly documented in your book, I want to talk about the other, you did a second documentary about the mosques where you were also undercover. You were
As a sheikh.
As a sheikh who was supposed to be a donor to these radical Muslim Brotherhood mosques, right? And so...
Another story for entering.
Yeah, it's great. Here, I have money. I'm flashing it around for you. You want $50?
Tell you your real goal. Says our goal is to Islam.
You came to America. So there were also chapters there about Islam in the United States. And what did you discover there? How is the situation different than in Europe, or is it the same? Where did that leave you? What did you learn?
It's different from Europe. United States different from Europe because it's spread geographically otherwise. Because take for example Holland, 5% Muslims, 25% from Amsterdam. They always in the main cities. They're not living in the villages or so on. In United States, it's differently. You have Dearborn as a capital of the Muslim, but you see a lot of points.
Hamtramck.
I saw
Hamtramck, Michigan, the first one. They came out in favor of Trump, and everybody was saying now he owes his election.
Yeah, all of them. Take for example a small, tiny town called Belgrade. Nobody heard about Belgrade. It's between Miami and Tampa. Okay. The guy there is named Sheikh Muslet. He's a Palestinian with a cafe. Looks like Bin Laden. He's the mayor. He became the mayor, and he bought the public school, and now it's an Islamic school. You can see it. It's chapter 5 in my documentary, False Identity. He said to me, "Look, we're gonna spread our vision from Belgrade. So it's small places that you can see them and there is no clash. Unlike Europe that you see the clash in the street, in the United States, you can't see the clash." I interviewed in my documentary series Jesse Morton. I don't know if you remember this name. He died last year. Jesse Morton was the editor of Al-Qaeda Weekly in the United States. He was drug dealer. He went to the prison in Pennsylvania, and then he joined the Muslims. He converted to Islam and joined the Muslim.
Had indoctrination of prisoners was one of their main way of bringing people aboard.
Exactly. And when he went up, he joined Al-Qaeda. He went to Morocco. They met him, and they saw that he's graphically and he's an editor. He edits the weekly magazine of Al-Qaeda. And then he made a lot of interviews in CNN, and suddenly he turned off. He just realized how they lying, and he became in the other side. And Jesse told me that when we made the...
Was he still a jihadist when you interviewed him?
No, he's a Muslim.
No, but when you interviewed him...
No, after he's not the moderate, and now he's calling for us to wake up. Jesse told me that it's more easy to practice in America, because in America they look for the money. They not look for your opinions. If they will see money goes for Hamas, they will stop you, like a Holy Land charity and Mash'al brother in the United States.
Right.
That's why it's more free to do and to practice Islam in the United States, and more than Europe. In the United States, to practice Islam, you can do whatever you want in the name of freedom. But at the moment you will touch money, they will arrest you. Up to that point, you can do a lot.
Like what can you do?
Dawa, which means to spread Islam in a peaceful ways and means that will come and to convince the Christians to come. That's why Muslet, his partner of Muslet, his name is Wayne Rawlings. He's a strategic advisor. He wrote a book, 2064 America as a Muslim. That's how they think. Okay, but they still can put a book that's saying that the United States is going to be Muslim in 2064, and nobody will do nothing. No intelligence, nothing. When I published as a false identity, they called me from the American Security Services, said to me, "Who is Muslim? Who is the Sheikh? Where is living? Where is Belgrade?" Somewhere in the south. This is the problem, that the Americans can't see it because it's not in the streets like in Europe, but it's more dangerous.
But now it's in the streets, right? After October 7th, it absolutely flooded.
Demonstrations.
In demonstrations, but I mean...
Or in the Times Square, where you see the halal guys. The halal guys, they buying the meat, the halal, but it's a mafia. It's a mafia. And at the same time, by the way, they put in the muazzin, the azan, the mosque calling for prayer from the application of the iPhone. And so you see, you look for the mosque. Where's the mosque? There is no mosque. There is azan. Allahu Akbar. And you see it, you hear it in Times Square. This is Dawa. This is spreading the Islam. And the Americans still don't not familiar with this phenomenon. Take, for example, Sheikh Hassan Shibli. Hassan Shibli is a well-known interviewer in Fox News and all the other channels. I sneaked to his office as a donator, and he told me Al-Aqsa, Jihad, Hamas, everything. When I published it, it didn't harm him because the Americans still like him at the screen. I have a photo of Hassan Shibli with Kalashnikov. It doesn't say nothing to the Americans because they're so living in the mind of freedom of speech that the Islam can sneak into their society without pay attention. That's why every chapter here in this podcast we can end in, I hope that Trump will change it. I hope in the time of Trump they will change. I really hope.
Yeah, but the problem is that the freedom of speech thing is very tricky, right? Because you see that it's, the argument in the United States that's impossible to counter is, look, if you don't have freedom of speech for everybody, then you have tyranny of one side over the other, which is exactly what people were experiencing with the Democrats for many, many years. I mean, they shut down discussion on COVID, and they made people really distrustful of authorities and people coming in and saying this is hate speech and that is hate speech. And so you're stuck, and it's really a question of definitions. Like, can you define the doctrine of your enemy, of jihad, as an enemy ideology that you can go after because it in and of itself poses a threat to your country? And I don't want to. I
just will tell you something that one day, at the very close future, democracies will have to arrange themselves from the beginning inside as a democracies, but outside as more clever and more open-eyed towards Muslims and radical Islam, because we can't play at the same ground, democratic ground, with Muslim Brotherhood, like in Raed Salah in Israel and in Hamas. That's it. This will be the conclusion 2-3 years from now.
So I really want to talk to you about Israel because, I mean, we are ground zero, and we see that the Palestinian issue has been it's not universally seen for what it is. To the contrary, you have a situation in Israel where the left in Israel use the Palestinians as a tool for leveraging themselves politically against the right. And, just say, we're pro-peace. And then through that concept that this is really just about internal politics and whether I can make a play and say that the right wing is anti-peace, I'm going to deny every aspect of Palestinian identity, Palestinian aspirations for my destruction, because if I acknowledge them, then I'm I'm saying that the right had it correct all along, and I'll lose politically. And so we have this weird situation where we're ground zero of the jihad, and yet rather than being able to fight it as one, since it's directed against all of us, we ourselves are compromised because of the exploitation of the Palestinians and the Palestinian issue by the left. How do you look at that? What do we do? I mean, your book is basically all about that. So
first, you're right. It's.
So what do you? Can you tell me a little bit about how you saw that as a reporter in the 90s and then going forward? Because that really is the heart of your book in many ways.
You're right. I joined the journalism world, or my first station, IDF radio, at 1998, after I was 8 years in the Shin Bet, the security services. And they hired me just because soldiers are not allowed to go inside the Palestinian territories anymore, because Israel handed all the cities, the Arab cities in the West Bank or in Judea Samaria to the Palestinians. Now you need civilians. Why not a soldier if there is a peace? Just a question. But never mind. They hired me.
Well, that's a key question. And you're working for the Army radio.
Yeah, you work for the Army radio. Why should I be civilians? Go send your reporters, all the other reporters that wearing
That's
uniform.
a glaring red light that there's something very problematic about this whole peace process.
This is the beginning point. And then...
And they took it for granted and just said, no, we have to hire, obviously we need to hire a civilian.
So they hired me and they told me, go inside to cover like you're in a foreign reporter, like you cover Australia, like you're going to cover a state. They don't have a state now, but they will have. So the Ministry of Agriculture helped them. The Ministry of Media helped them. Everybody in Israel helped them to be a country. You remember those days that we taught them how to do agriculture and how to, even the seniors in the Israeli television, Channel 1, went to Ramallah to tell them how to operate studios and so on. So just a small tiny question. What are they going to speak in the studio? Never mind. It's their business. This is the first obstacle, that you don't ask yourself what they're going to transmit in Palestinian radio, PBC, Palestinian Broadcasting Corporation, what they're going to speak about. And then Yigal Carmon calling me, I said in the book, he called me one day, said,
He's the president of Memory that does all the translations of the Arabic media, including the Palestinian media.
Yeah, he said to me, you're quoting every day the Palestinian media, Arafat said, and so on. Do you aware that there is a lot of programs and another program that they incite to kill you? And I said, no, sorry, I didn't know. So I went to his office here in Jerusalem, and I was so surprised that they didn't show it to me. Why? Because they hide it. All incitement was underground to their public, and in English they spoke to our audience. That's why the Israeli media like to go into interview seniors of the Palestinian Authority, because if you're a journalist and Israeli did something at the morning, building the settlement or whatever, you need to take a comment from the other side. Who's the other side? Jibril Arjou, because he's speaking Hebrew, Marwan Barghouti, because he's speaking Hebrew, and then he will be on air, and that's it. We did our journalistic mission. This is what was my education.
You gave this incredible story about how Army Radio had a broadcasting point in Hebron, and there had been, some sort of altercation between IDF forces and Palestinians in the city, and you pass by and are protected by the IDF soldiers who are involved, and then you go and you give a report that's siding with the Palestinians against
inside army base, inside the Chov HaShohada. Because it's a freedom of speech. You should be in their favor. You should be in their side, because we are now woke up from a sleep that we're sorry. This is the apologetic discourse of Obama 2010 in Cairo. Salam alaikum, I'm apologize. What should I be apologize? Because you conquered us, because there is occupation. This is only one discourse. And I'm a small soldier of the Israeli IDF that want to fix the picture, just to give them more balance, to know them, to give them the microphone, to tell how they think. And they used us. They used us at a very simple principle. If you want to go safely in our land, or you want to enter our territory safely, you better be in my side.
See, not only did you interview Arafat, which we can get to, but you interviewed a lot of terrorists, like Marwan Barghouti.
Marwan Barghouti, Zacharias Beatty, he was a star.
All of these people have massive amounts of Jewish blood on their hands. What did you tell yourself? I mean, I remember when I was in the talks with the Palestinians, they made me shake Arafat's hand. And then a couple of years after I had to, Netanyahu shook his head when he came in and was prime minister, and the media derisively talked about Mrs. Netanyahu, saying she made him wash his hands afterwards. But I'll tell you the truth. After I touched that man, I felt like I had just shaken hands with Satan. Yes, and I remember, I'm not one of these weird OCD people who's constantly washing her hands. I literally
No, you're in the right place.
I washed my hands for like 10 minutes. I couldn't stop. I was so repulsed by this guy, and so because I still remember now, like I'm talking about it, and I can still feel it, and and yet there was none of that. There was no. Don't you have any how could you meet with these people? How could you talk to them? What would you think? They killed so many of us.
You're so right. My father, my parents live here in Talpiot. They're left-wing, basically Iraqis that voted for Meretz and the Red Party and so on. And he told me when I came from Arafat, wash your hand before you touching my grandkids, my father, okay? That he lived with inside Arab and so on. But I want to tell you about your question. They taught us.
Who's they?
In the school of media that I was in the University of Tel Aviv, Koteret, or whenever we went, even in Galei Tzahal, in the IDF radio, that you should be in the middle. You should be not part of them. You have to report that you're an objective point of view, that you're not Israeli and you're not Palestinian, just to be objective. It's such a lie, because I'm an Israeli, but I didn't consider myself yet. But you don't have to involve your identity inside the report. That's why when you go to interview Arafat, it's a scoop. It's it's achievement, for you as a journalist. That's why you're going to run and don't think about your nationality and nothing. That's what happened with all the journalists, with Yoram Binur and with all of them. The guys who covered the Arabs look like Lawrence
of Arabia.
Like she's going and crossing the border, and he's the brave one that went to the Mukata, and that's it. After, in Moment Cafe, when they blew it up, Barghouti called me, asked me, how many killed? And I'm there, and my sister didn't answer to my parents, because my sister, she went to the cafe. And we looked for her, and I looked for her. I didn't mind the microphone at that moment. And I said, what a crazy. I'm speaking with the guy who sent the suicide bomber to the cafe. My sister sitting in the cafe, she's not answering because all the service of the mobile phones shut down. And he's your friend? What are you doing? This is my first shock. When I saw it so controversially, my duty. But I continued, because there is a trend. If you want to be a scoop, you can't cover the Palestinian Authority when you are out of the field.
Wait. We got to stop for a second, because you just told a story that I know, but my viewers certainly don't. So in 2002, in March, we had suicide bombers every day in Israel, every single day. And
since the first one in the Dolphinarium.
Right, in June 2001. But March, was Moment also in March?
Moment was, I think, in October. The head of this phenomenon was March 2002, Park Hotel at the Leila said.
Right, but every day before that in March, there was, because 130 were killed in March. And like, I don't know, 1,000 were wounded that month. That month lasted 10 years. But so Moment was one of the bombings, and it was a very popular cafe in Ramavia. With the journals of all of the cool guys. I used to go there. Not that I would never get seated fast, but whatever. So there was a suicide bombing in Moment, which is very close to the Prime Minister's residence, and so your sister was there, and you're covering it for Channel 10, which later became...
I did for you.
You were still at IDF? It was in 2002.
Yeah, it was Chadshot Israel at the beginning
of Channel 10.
Channel 10, yeah.
So you get there, and you're looking for your sister, and the guy who masterminded the attack, Marwan Barghouti, was the head of Fatah, who was the architect of the Palestinian terrorist war from 2000 on until he was arrested. He called you to find out how many people had been killed?
Yeah.
While you're looking for your sister?
Yeah.
And then, after that, you just went out?
When I realized that she's okay, so I turned to the microphone, and then I began the same song. Don't be confused. I continue to be who I am, to cover 2 Israeli killed, 1 suicide bomber. The Palestinians said that if the occupation don't continue, they're gonna send, and they are now spreading candies in Ramallah. And the Israeli Shabak officers said they don't know who is the suicide bomber. That's it. That's it. Another day in the Israeli media. That was the rules of the media. And then it took me a lot of time when I went to the Jenin refugee camp, and Zacharias Beatty, the head of the Fatah there, then I saw how many lies and how much they use us, the journalists. He said to me, to kill you as a Jew, it's right, but to kill you as a journalist, it doesn't work for me. I need you. I need you as a journalist to tell the Israeli people who I am. They used the Israeli media as a part of their jihad. That's what I'm saying. And it's very stupid to realize that I was part of it. But it's better to wake up.
So, because I remember in the lynch in Ramallah, which was in October of 2000, when 2 reservists got lost, and they were going to their base, and they got lost, and they ended up accidentally going into the town of Ramallah, where they were grabbed by a mob and torn apart, literally piece by piece, inside
of bloods. You see, you
right,
remember
inside of a Palestinian police station. So these were people who were supposed to be our allies, and we were at peace with them and safe. And
they handed the policemen handed. So, those 2 Israelis.
So there was we only know really what happened there because there was this Italian journalist, I think his name was Riccardo Cristiano, who was working for Berlusconi's private news station, and he had the footage and he spirited it out of Ramallah. He fled the country, and he wrote a letter of apology to the Palestinian Authority, Yasser Arafat, apologizing for publishing the footage of the lynch. And that didn't wake you guys up.
No.
How is that possible?
Because we thought that the violence of Arafat, it's something temporary just to push Israel to go in his way, and afterwards it's going to be peace, everything will be okay. We didn't realize that if the gun is coming at the first scene, that's it. There is no peace. And when I wrote it in my book, when he told me after every terror attack, we want peace, we condemn it. He condemned and was lying. And then he told me, there is no end of conflict. It won't be any end of conflict because you're talking about numbers and I'm speaking about justice. He didn't see any justice for us as a Jewish. That's why today Abu Mazen and of course Hamas and even part of the leadership of Israeli Arabs, what we call the Israeli Arabs, they don't see any rights for us to live here. They don't recognize Israel or Jewish as an entity, even nothing. This is the main problem, and that's why I called it jihad. Because it's not going to end. They always telling me you're pessimistic. I'm not a pessimistic. They told me we're going to fight you because it's or we or you. That's it. This is the conclusion of 7 October.
So that's the thing that I'm sorry I keep harping on it, and you woke up, but you woke up over a long period of time.
Sorry.
It took you a while, and most of your colleagues refuse still to this day.
Up to these days.
So what happened? Describe for me what happened to you that forced you, against your will, I would assume, to actually wake up to reality. And why is it? And well, first of all, what happened to you? Why did you wake up? Why did you realize what made you shift?
First, I thought that the idea that the Palestinians are going to stay in their cities or in Gaza Strip or whatever, up to 2005, the disengagement of Itnatkut or whatever.
The withdrawal from Gaza.
Yeah. No, they would throw it 2007, but I do believe
No, in 2005 we left.
We left.
And then the Palestinian Authority was forcibly ejected.
Yeah, and then 2006 they kidnapped Shalit, and 2007 they kick Arafat, Abu Mazen out.
Right.
But I believe that this is the formula, that when you give them land, give them the territory, that there is no way of clashing or contribution or disagree, they will handle their life properly. I believed it. But in 2005, when we evacuated Gaza, at the same time they continued to shoot our cities around Gaza, then I said, whoa, something happened here. And then I saw the kidnapping of Shalit and how Abu Mazen didn't do nothing in Gaza when Shalit was in Gaza and he was the boss.
And you thought that he would? You had actually expected Abu Mazen to do something to help?
Israeli soldier, when Israeli soldier are going by mistake today to Hebron, they have to hand him to Israeli forces, and it's happened. Why it's not happening in Gaza? Because Hamas fighting the Palestinian Authority, and it's happened. Eventually, it's happened in the election that Hamas they won in the West, in the Judea and Samaria, even in West Bank, and that's what.
Yeah, we call it Judea and Samaria.
Yeah,
okay.
No, I don't. I'm speaking all the terms because I don't have any importance for the terms. I know what I'm believing now, and I use because they gotta hear it. It's like a pill that I want them to take. So, that's why. That's how, and I think why many left wings can hear me. I'm going all over Israel in a lecture. Every week I have a lecture. I have a lecture last week in En Harod Kibbutz En Harod, and before in Bet Gavriel in the Kibbutzim of the Kinneret, near the Kinneret. People come to hear me and they said, wow, it's logical. I don't think right and wing in Israel, they were like it's black or white. The right wing did a lot of mistakes in adopting Oslo and giving Hamas money and to build the formula of quiet in front of quiet. It's not right or wrong. It's a Jewish identity to see the Islam clashing and the Palestinian waging jihad towards us when they're stealing a car, when they taking social security. Everything is jihad. That's why I want everybody to see it, not in this party or other party.
I salute you for that, but what I'm still trying to get my head around is, I've been on...
And then in 2007, when they throw Abu Mazen guards from the
rooftops, right?
That was my point, my point of change.
Why? What do you...
Because I saw the cruelness. I saw that this doesn't matter of borders and agreements. They want to kill us. Hamas want to kill us, and Fatah, it's like Hamas, but they're more nice with tie and jacket. That's it.
So wait, that's so weird. To me, it strikes me as like weird, because your breaking point when you realized that this was all a lie, everything that you had told yourself, all the things that your boss had told you, all the things that your friends had agreed about, that it was all a lie. When Hamas killed Fatah terrorists,
why then?
Well, hadn't they explained it enough, with Jews? What is it? Why would that be the breaking point?
Because I saw that they so jihadic that they can kill their brothers on the way to kill me. It was like a station, like the first station before the second station. And when Yusuf al-Qaradawi, the sheikh of the Muslim Brotherhood, when he published the fatwa that you allowed to kill your brothers in the name of implementing Islam. That's what the point that I said. We don't have nothing to. We're not understanding nothing in these guys. They coming towards of us. They will do it, and one day when they conquer Gaza, they will come to our houses, and it happened in 7 October.
So okay. All right. So you said the minute that happened, you saw, all right, this really is serious.
And Hamas, it's all over Judea, Samaria. You can see it.
Because
with their taxes.
You had the unified resistance cells that had terrorists from Fatah, Islamic Jihad, and Hamas perpetrating most of the suicide bombings in the early 2000s. They were joint cells.
It's tactical. They joined them tactical just to have peace, and that's it. One day it will over.
It's like there's no end of this self-delusion.
That's what all the media.
I know. That's why I went into the media, because the media was lying. So I figured, all right, I might as well just go to it.
10 years to see that I'm part of the lying machine.
How did that make you feel?
My friends in the media?
Well, no, when you figured out that you were a big fat liar.
I did tshuva. And I did tshuva even in my personal life. 3 years after, 2009 and 10, I became a real Jewish, because they forced me to realize that I'm a Jewish first and foremost in their eyes.
So the minute that you figured out who they were, you said, "Wait, so who am I?" Is that what happened?
Zacharias Berry asked me, "If I'm going to shoot you," he said to me. "I'm going to shoot a Jewish." I said to him, "I'm not a Jewish. I'm a journalist." He laughed. He said, "What you are? Journalist? It's not an identity." So I said, "I'm an Israeli."
You have another story in there about Sheikh Yassin, the founder of Hamas.
With the matzah and the bread.
So I tell that story.
Sheikh Yassin, writing in his book, the first book of Ahmad Yassin in 1982, was published in Gaza Strip. The Israeli helped him to publish it, because he was like a moderate, like the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood in the Arabic translation, it's wasatiyah. Wasat, it's middle. Sharq al-Awsat, the Middle East. Awsat, they middle. They're not so radical. They condemning terror attacks.
And then he found
they're only going to the mosque to play with kids football. That's why the Israeli gave Ahmad Yassin 70 mosques to handle. And then in 1987, they declared jihad. But at the first time, Ahmad Yassin, writing that when he was in prison, he was eating matzah, because it's an Israeli prison, and he see one of the security guys there eating bread, and he asked him, "Why I'm eating the matzah and you eat the bread?" He said, "I'm not a believer. I'm not a religious." He said, "If you're speaking like this, we can win. We, the Palestinians, can win because they're not believers."
So you figured out who they were. You started looking into who is this Tzvi Yehezkeli guy, right? That's what happened, essentially?
Yeah, because eventually I'm a Jewish in their eyes, and they're going to kill me in the name of my Judaism. And it's very poor that I'm not a Jewish. And that's, not day after I was keeping Shabbat and so on, but it was a beginning of procedure that I saw all my work at the last decade as with a lot of points that point me. It's there, but I was like going to the mainstream way to be a journalist, a brave, objective journalist. And when I stopped, and I realized first that I'm a Jewish and I'm a Jew, and if I want that my kids will raise kids in Israel, they should be religious. Ma'aminim, believers with a Jewish identity. No matter what they will do, the way they're going to study, Jewish. And then I just realized that there is a part of me, Jewish part, that was left over 20, 30 years ago. To be a kid in Jerusalem, I grew up here in Talpiot. There was a bus line, Arab line. They were going to Bethlehem. We went to buy fake jeans and Adidas in Bethlehem as a kids.
Right.
So it was so natural not to be a Jew and to be like in the global identity, or like the new identity of peace. Now I realized that it was a mistake. But and then it was in 2 years I became religious, I got married, and I began to speak freely.
And then what happened?
At the first time, they were shocked, my colleagues there in Channel 13, because I was one of them. I was the head of the idea of Channel 10. And they said, "Look, he's still nice, it's okay, he's not so loudly, he's not shouting, he's not fighting in the studios." I'm not fighting in the studios. I'm not shouting, I'm not in the Twitter. I'm just giving a diagnosis. Look, they are like this and like this and like this. And in the beginning, they believed, and my first research about the corruption in the Palestinian Authority in 2010, it was an officer in Abu Mazen security guys who gave me all the receipts and the papers and videos of stealing and doing a lot of sexual harassment, a lot of things. And I published it in the Makor of Raviv Drucker. Look, the first
Raviv Drucker, just for knowing, is one of the leading grand poobahs of the leftist media mafia in Israel.
When I brought the material, he said, "Let's go. We do it because I believe you." They still believe me. Even in the war, I was sitting in the studio. But slowly, I began to be weird. And the other side, and not so nice. And look how I'm, profiling.
Yeah.
So, but they still like me because they remembered
The old
who I
Tzvi.
was. Yeah, the old Tzvi. Okay, maybe Tzvi, something happened to him, but it's happened to our people as well, so it's okay. And he's still popular. When you bring in the rating, everything is okay. Yesterday, I was in Channel 1 in an interview with Ronnie Kuban, 7.1 rating. They happy. But I said whatever, I said all the things that I believed in Channel 1. So it's amazing. They still respect me. But slowly, I'm becoming the other side. But what happened in Europe and in the 7th of October that I said it and it happened, they still said, okay, maybe it's a prophet Ezekiel, I don't know. They still respect my Arab expertise. But politically, if I was fighting with them, they will clash inside of me. So I'm not fighting in the Twitter in the name of the right wing or something else. I'm just giving my opinion in Arab affairs, and that's it. To tell you who the Arabs, you decide who you are.
I want to go back for a second to where I started, because I think, the whole thing with the corruption, I mean, it's all been percolating. I wrote my thesis at Harvard at the Kennedy School in 2000 was about Palestinian corruption and authoritarianism and its implications for peace. And it was all known. In 1997, they stole a third of their budget. A third of their budget went missing. And you look at this and you're like, how many prophet Ezekiels do we need? Because you have this core of Israel's elite in the media, in the Shin Bet, in all of these kind of bureaucratic arms of the Israeli state that refuse to listen. And they keep saying this can't be a religious conflict, but it is a religious conflict. And, anybody who sees it as such is automatically demonized as some sort of, just like in Europe, by the way, as an extremist. And so, we're in a war for our survival. I think most people get that, but they refuse to diagnose it. And so over and over, you get these new prophets and new prophets and new prophets. And they're all saying the same thing that the old prophet said, but you still have this. What do you think it's going to take? Can it change? And if it doesn't change, can we survive this?
First, after 7 October, we're in a different point of, it's a different situation because most of the people, not the media.
Most of the public always got it.
You see the army, you see the soldiers, you see, they're believers. They know where they're heading. They know exactly the story. The problem is, like you said, it's a bureaucracy and the head of Shin Bet. I was in the Shin Bet and I know all the commanders of the Shin Bet. They're not a left wing. They have a vision that I don't want religious country. One of
that's the whole point, is that they begin with what they don't like about Jews, and then they project it onto the other side.
And they flatter to the Palestinians. Look in the negotiations. You've been in the negotiations. Arafat told me, always say no to any proposal, because if you will say no, they will come afterwards, will give you
the worst
exactly what you said no, you take it. And again, look what's happening today with Hamas. Exactly. They're going to Qatar and ask Hamas, please do an agreement. Hey, you're the big boy in Gaza, you're the winner in Gaza. Why you need Hamas to say yes? This is a problem of the new Israeli. I was part of it because it's apologetic discourse. It's apologetic point of view. Sorry that I'm the occupier. That's why I have to amend and to fix it and to give you
It's only partially, though, self-loathing like that. It's also loathing the other guy in Israel. I think that's the main sociological force at play here, which is that I can't acknowledge that I'm wrong, because if I do the other guy, I have to acknowledge that he was right. And I hate the other guy more than I hate this guy who just killed my family. So I'm going to just go with that guy against this guy.
Exactly. This is Aretz. He wrote, when I became religious, the culture Jew, he said, Tzvi Yehezkeli is my enemy. This is the headline. Yehezkeli is your enemy? I'm your enemy. They served in the army, and then 8 years, I'm your enemy. Yeah, you're my enemy because you are religious. That's why they always said, Smotrich and Begri, Messiah, and then so on. Guys, I think you more waiting for your
Messiah
in the democracy of your democracy religious. Guys, live the Judaism. Judaism is the glue that stick us together. That's what the Arabs said. And try it,
You might like it.
Yeah, try it more and more, and you see that the Arab will kick you off. Because Musab Yusuf, the Green Prince, his father, Hassan Yusuf, was in prison. And it's in the end of the book, the last chapter is called Lachzor B'Tshuva, but it's not about my tshuva. It's tshuva of our people that have to come back and to see where in the 50s or in the 60s we lost it. We lost the way. And I'm giving here a conversation that I had with Musab, a father of Musab, Hassan Yusuf, in Offer prison. I entered the prison just to see how we feel towards a ceasefire in Gaza, during a fight in Gaza. And he said to me, by the way, Yehezkeli, I saw you with a kippah and a beard in the television. Mabruk. I said, why you say Mabruk for me? He said, now you're not a kafir, you're a believer, you're more close to me. You're more close to me. And then I said, I thought that you like the left and all those guys. He said, no, this kind of useful idiots. These guys we will kill the first.
And they did.
Yeah, and they did. Because they still see in my view and my look, strength and something real. More than the flattering of the left.
Okay, so here I got to ask you, so wait a minute. That in a way that doesn't make any sense. It makes sense that they respect people who respect themselves, who have true faith,
God,
who fear God as they do, but differently, obviously, in our traditions. But if they want to dominate the world in the name of jihad, in the name of Islam, then all the same, respect or not,
they're going to kill us.
You're their worst enemy because you're a Jew who actually knows what he's fighting for, and you're not going to lie down and let them get it.
You're right, but there is an exception. They calling us the Am HaSefer, the people of the book.
Right.
The book, not because we like to read books, because we have
the Bible.
The Bible. And in the Quran, more than twice or three times, it says that if you have problem of how to manage yourself as the Jews, the chosen people, the Jews went out of Egypt. You see it all the Quran. They know that you holding the truth. That's why they have to protect you. You can pay the jizya. You better be a Muslim. But they know who you are. Religiously, they know who you are. You have a more power as a religious Jewish in their eyes. That's why they don't want to recognize us as a Jewish state, only as another Jewish nation, just as a Jewish ethnic group. As an ethnic group, they can live beside of you. I don't want to be there, but it still have respect more than nationality or secular identity.
Okay, again, this is confusing to me because a couple of things. One is, two things, and I'll ask them both. So first, a couple of weeks ago, I had this young man, Moriel Bareli, who on my show, who was talking about his experiences in these Arabic language apps.
I read his
book.
It's amazing.
So he was explaining to me that they view us as no longer the chosen people. That they claim that
part of Islam say that it's like the New Testament, like
right, the New Testament,
right. God left them, and then He chose. It's written,
and also that retroactively, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, David, Samuel, they're all Muslims. Like everybody's a Muslim, and you have to sort of awaken to that. But the other aspect of it, which is why you don't convert to Islam, you revert to Islam, but because you attach yourself to your true self. So on that sense, it would seem it's hard for me to understand. But also then there's the question of peace or normal relations.
To take peace out of the.
No, the peace, I'm using it, you're right, instrumentally. I'm talking about the Abraham Accords. The fact that they accepted the name Abraham Accords, which was the brainchild of David Friedman, a religious Jew, who was the American ambassador, to say we are a group, we are a brotherhood, or not a brotherhood, but a partnership of the sons of Abraham. So is that real or is that nothing? And then so that's the second question. And the first question is, how does the whole reversion to Islam and work with their respect for believing Jews?
First, Abraham Accords, it's...
No, go to that last, because that's like supposed to be the happy.
Okay. Abraham Accords, it's with tribes, with Emirates, that they did for their favor because of the Iranian threat.
Right.
That's it. They call it not Abraham Accords, the defense accords. We're defending them.
So they don't call them the Abraham Accords.
No.
The UAE.
In the headline, it's Abraham Accord, but as an interest, it's protection.
Okay.
Look at the Gulf newspaper and the Gulf talk in the street, if there is a street. But it's okay for me. It's okay for me because I know that this is Sunnah and Shia. This is a strategic choice of them, and like Saudi Arabia and so on. The other question, it's coming to the question if all the Islam obeying to the same story, and the answer is no. There is guys who practice Islam and they can't kill even an ant that going in the street in the room. And a guy from Daesh told me, from ISIS, he said to me, we want God to come here. That's why we're chopping heads. You see, because today Islam have no leadership. There is no religious leadership like in the Judaism that you have halakha. Most of the people that live in Islamic countries, like in Pakistan or even here in the Arab Peninsula, they don't know Quran. They don't know exactly. They do what they're telling them to do. Exactly the Palestinian. They don't know Quran. I know Quran more of all my friends, Arab friends, because I studied. They didn't study. They went to the mosque, and what they heard in the mosque, they did it. Even Nukhba terrorists, when they're coming to the investigation room, they said, we don't know Quran. We don't know. They're not so religious. So they're not so well known with those.
They're not learned.
So Islam, it's whatever you take your people and say to them, this is Islam. Islam is to take the Twin Towers down. That's it. This is Islam. This is the problem of Islam. This is the trap of Islam in these days because it's all over. The most problematic things that the radical always representing and leading all the 99 people of Islam towards the terror and lost and wars. I do believe that when you see the Muslim Brotherhood, what they say, that's what's going to be. They won't respect me as a Jewish. They're going to kill me at the first time that they will invade to my village, or I hope that it won't happen. I'm not counting on it, but I know how they see Jewish believer in front of Jewish secular. That's what I said. They see me more powerful and more dangerous for them, and even more potential for living in a temporary coexistence, because we are Abraham kids. That's why.
So what do you tell Israel's leaders? Well, I mean, we're looking at this war, and there's a question whether every time that the left's new thing is to say, if we don't agree to a ceasefire now, it's going to become a war of attrition. Like, that would be worse than what we had on October 7th. Like, I mean, it's always like there's something worse than fighting. And it just seems like, they don't, part of it is because they simply refuse to acknowledge and internalize the implications of what we saw on October 7th. What would you tell the prime minister, the defense minister, the head of Shabak, if you had their ears and said, just think about it this way, and then draw the necessary conclusions?
When I was born in the 70s, I wrote it in book. My parents told me, when you're going to grow up and you're going to be 18, there won't be any army. We're going to have a peace here. This is...
Your words.
Yeah. No, it's a wish of a Jewish that one day we'll have a peace here. But a state without an army, it's nothing. We saw what happened in the 7th of October, 4 hours without an army. So the head of the army, even the head of the cabinet, and the head of all those branches of the state, they still believe that one day we're gonna have peace if something will happen. And I can tell them now, forget about it. The Palestinian national movement gonna fight us all the time, every time. If you're gonna rebuild Gaza, and you're gonna build a school without UNRWA, without nothing, and a small kids, Palestinian, will go to the first grade and he will study about the Nakba, that's it. The jihadi part of the part won't leave the Palestinian national movement anymore.
Never.
It's gonna be built inside. That's why we have to prepare ourselves for a long term and a long years of fighting. But if you are preparing to fight, you will see that your enemy, and I know the Arabs, they see us and they said, okay, this is not the time. They attacked us because they thought it's the time. We were separated. We were in our dreams that quiet is gonna bring peace and so on. Now we woke up, and it won't go again. We are now going to sleep with our weapons, unlike it's happened, not like it's happened in the day of 7 October. The Palestinian and the Israeli conflict won't gonna end. That's it. It's for forever.
So stop talking about attrition, not attrition.
Leave it.
Leave it. Just fight.
Yes. You know,
defend yourself.
I was just waiting in my car in a traffic jam before 3 weeks, and I heard the radio from Amman, Jordanian radio. And then a Palestinian citizen went to the air and they asked him, what do you think about what happened in Palestine? Which means in our, and he said, you know, after 75 years of, I'm a refugee, of course, he said, I'm a refugee. And he said, after 75 years of playing,
75 years of
refugees, after playing around, it's become more real. We have a war, and this is the real situation. It's or us or them. That's it. We went to some kind of a truth that we acknowledge that that's it. It's or the Jewish or us. I'm agree with him.
I agree with him too.
Because that's it. Now every citizen in Israel know that it's or you or Nasrallah. Gonna look what they prepared for us in the northern border, because we were sleeping in our zimmers for 20 years. That's it.
It's the same thing with Europe, and it's the same thing with the United States.
And we are the generation. I'm the generation of the confused generation, the generation that's fighting in Gaza. Those amazing soldiers, they're gonna lead Israel in a different way. Wait, 4 or 5 years. In 4 or 5 years, our chief of staff is going to be more directed and more focused in his mission, more than our chief of staff, to do some kind of PR.
I was trying to make people take their patches that say they press the Messiah.
Because they're so afraid from religious. That's it. And this is the time of the religious Zionist soldiers to raise their head. They paying the
highest price,
high price of their life. For what? You will see that 4 or 5 years from now, it's going to happen. And I hope so. Hopefully with Trump administration will help us. We need his help to know our Judaism point. You see, sometimes you need the other to tell you where to go. We need him. So I hope he will do. Just keep going. This will happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I could go on. I have more questions, but I'm not going to, because we've already exhausted our time. And
we're studying from Hebrew to Arabic and then to English. That's why.
No, you do a good job. It's fine. And I really appreciate your time. And guys, let me just show you the book. It's in Hebrew, but it's soon going to be in English, and we're going to link it. It says, I told you it's jihad. 30 years of coverage from Oslo to the 7th of October.
Here are the pictures that you don't like with the guys, with Zbeidi, with all the terrorists. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like a letter. It's the first grade. that's come, they bring you to the second of it. Now, you see, I will woke up.
Now you're in your postdoc. All right. And then here, by the way, there's this other book. I gave it to my younger son. It says The Quiet Before the Storm. And it's for kids. It's like a comic book of explaining jihad to children, and it's excellent. And I still haven't gotten the book report from him, but I will, or he doesn't get the popcorn. Anyway, but listen, it's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you.
And I'd love to have you back when the book does come out in English so that we can sell a lot of
very important job.
Shucker pucker.
Yeah. Believe in your strength. This is a part of our job.
It's very much part of our job, and it's part of your job to get them voices out, to get this message out. And so share this video with everybody you know, and people who don't like you, they'll like you even less, but at least maybe they'll hear something that they should know. All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you. And if you can put a link,
we're gonna put
it's on Amazon as well for the people in the United States. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In Hebrew, but in English soon.
God willing, it'll be in English soon, and you'll buy them. So, all right, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Karen.
All right, take care.
Bye.